Good morning, I'm Maiki Oreta and you're watching Basis Points, where we dive deep into the numbers and the stories that drive our economy and shape our world. We begin in the United States, where shares of Donald Trump's social media company, Trump Media and Technology Group, plunged 17% to their lowest finish since going public in late March, before ending the day at a record low, down 10%. This drop follows Trump's fiery presidential debate with rival Vice President Kamala Harris. The stock has slumped nearly 60% since July, since Harris became the Democratic Party's presidential candidate. Betting odds of a win for the vice president grew after the debate, where Trump was clearly put on the defensive amid a stream of attacks by Harris. Here in Asia, economists raised their outlook for Singapore in 2024. A survey by the country's central bank shows that the economy is expected to grow by 2.6% this year, up slightly from a previous forecast of 2.4%. The prediction for headline inflation was also lowered slightly from 2.8% to 2.6%. Economists believe that GDP growth will come on the back of growth in the finance and insurance, construction, wholesale, and retail trade sectors. South Korea's unemployment rate falls to a record low from 2.5% in July. The jobless rate slid to 2.4% last month. That's contrary to analysts' expectations of 2.6%. An export rally that began last year has helped support the domestic economy, allowing companies to largely maintain their payrolls. Over in the United Kingdom, the economy fails to grow yet again as manufacturing output drops sharply. The gross domestic product, or GDP, flatlined on a month-on-month basis in July, as it did in June. This as economists expected an expansion of at least 0.2%. Britain's economy has grown slowly since the COVID-19 pandemic, expanding just 2.3% between 2019 and the second quarter of this year. The Prime Minister, Keir Starmer there, who was just elected in July, has vowed to make boosting the UK's annual growth a top priority. The Philippines climbs 2 spots in the latest best countries ranking by the U.S. News and World Report. It's now 45th out of 89 nations. The report describes the Philippines as the land of beautiful beaches and abundant biodiversity, with a resilient economy despite being plagued by political instability. Switzerland claims the top spot in that ranking, while Japan rises 4 spots to secure the second place. The annual report serves as a snapshot of how nations are perceived on the world stage. We're taking a quick break. Please stay with us as we dive deep into the numbers and the narratives that matter most to your bottom line. Welcome back. The Senate is looking into the terminated national ID card printing contract between the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas and Allcard. Senate Finance Committee Chairperson Grace Poe cites concerns by the Commission on Audit that the BSP under former Governor Benjamin Diokno may have subcontracted Allcard for the printing of the national ID cards, which is prohibited under the deal. The senator speculates that the BSP may have terminated the contract after realizing this, and it's a possible violation of the agreement with the Philippine Statistics Authority. Poe is describing the potential breach as a serious issue that can nullify the agreement and hold the BSP liable. The senator has formally requested the Commission on Audit for more information on this. The private consortium taking over the management of the Ninoy Aquino International Airport this week guarantees uninterrupted airport operations during this transition period. The San Miguel-led new NAIA Infrastructure Corporation, or NNIC, says future changes and improvements will be carried out gradually and strategically. They also add that modifications, including terminal assignments, will be coordinated closely with airline stakeholders. NNIC will also formally take charge of the country's main gateway this Saturday, kicking off modernization efforts aimed at improving the airport's capacity and passengers' experience. Elsewhere in the world, Italy's number 2 bank, UniCredit, acquires a 9% stake in German lender Commerzbank, reviving speculations over a takeover. Half of the shareholders was purchased from the German government. UniCredit says it will even seek regulatory approval to potentially buy more. In the meantime, the acquisition makes UniCredit one of Commerzbank's largest shareholders and follows previous attempts by the Italian lender to strengthen its presence in Germany. However, Commerzbank's CEO, Manfred Knof, whose term at the firm ends next year, is playing down the prospect of big tie-ups. Onto the financial markets. U.S. stocks reverse early declines in a volatile session as inflation comes in slightly higher than expected. The Dow Jones Industrial Average added 0.3%, while the S&P 500 jumped more than 1%. The tech-heavy Nasdaq gained 2.2%. Tech stocks were the clear outperformers, leading a broad rally later in the session. Stocks initially struggled after core inflation rose slightly more than expected, cementing expectations that the Federal Reserve will take a gradual approach to easing policy. Trading at the Philippine Stock Exchange just opened a few minutes ago. Let's take a look at those initial figures. Right now, we're seeing a sea of green in the market. Everything is up. The PSE index is up by 0.5% to 69.76. All shares index up as well, up by not by as much, actually flat with a slight upward bias, up by 0.1% to 37.69. Of all these sub-indices, all are trading marginally higher. The one that's markedly higher is the services counter, that's up by 1%. Now, to help us make sense of these numbers, we're joined by Manny Ocampo. He's the Managing Director at Investment and Capital Corporation of the Philippines. Good morning, Manny. Thanks for being here with us.
Morning, Maiki.
Okay, Manny, how would you describe current investor sentiment right now? We're at 69.76. We've had a really hard time. Breaching it is not the problem. It's just staying above the 7,000 level. That's been a challenge for the market. How would you describe market sentiment at the moment, given that we can't stay above the 7,000 level?
But people have been really recycling, going in and out of the market. So you have people stuck from before that are maybe looking to get out when it starts hitting the 7,000 levels, rather. And, I think today I make the prediction and say that we probably will stay above 7,000. And that's being driven by U.S. inflation for the meantime. It's good news that came out from the U.S. Where U.S. inflation comes and the action in the U.S. markets should redound well to the Philippine market.
Mm-hmm. That's right. U.S. inflation, August CPI came in higher at 0.2%. How do you think the Federal Reserve is going to respond to this in terms of what they're going to do with interest rates when they meet later on next week? Are you expecting a narrow 25 basis cut or a deeper 50 basis point? A lot of economists are now saying, given the August CPI, that expectations are for a gradual 25 bips cut.
Right. When you tear apart the inflation numbers that came out, unfortunately, housing and transport were higher than what the Fed had maybe programmed for. So maybe the 50 basis point rate cut is out of the window for the moment. But a 25 basis rate cut in the U.S. is pretty much a sure thing already.
All right. Now, with that rate cut in the U.S., that pretty much sure thing of a 25 basis point cut, the Philippine Central Bank is going to cut interest rates also. Do you think they're going to match this reduction when they meet in October? And with these cuts, do you think that the market will be able to stay above the 7,000 mark?
Our own central bank meets about mid-October for the policy rates. So that will be preceded by inflation coming in earlier next month. So we think that inflation will still be pretty much muted for the Philippines. BSP has pretty much a 25 basis point rate cut, assuming inflation comes in muted, is pretty much a done deal. the BSP should have some leeway for maybe a more aggressive rate cut in October.
Now, that said, right now we're at 69.76. At this level, do you think that the market is undervalued given the upside potential that will stem from the rate cuts from the Federal Reserve and the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas?
Yes. Well, towards year end, I think BSP, with a, if they do an initial 25 basis point rate cut, we're looking at maybe 7,200, 7,300. A 50 basis point rate cut followed by another rate cut, hopefully in December when they meet again. You're there at the 76 to 7,800 targets for the year end.
Now, taking a look at the foreign exchange market at the peso, we opened at 56.08, slightly strengthening from our previous close of 56.35. Right now, we're trading at a range between 56.06 and 56.11, very tight band there. What's your outlook for the peso over the quarter, given the economic shifts that are underway?
Right. We'll probably close the quarter. Well, September, we probably will stay within the 55, 56 range. We probably will see some weakness as imports going into, the Christmas season kicks in October. But November, December, that's, we see the peso strengthening again to the maybe 55 or so level. With remittances expected to come in that time of the year, Maiki.
Okay, now before I let you go, on the corporate front, Manny, biggest news has to do with SP New Energy Corporation, or SPNEC.
Right.
While it's still far from being operational, a UK-based firm, Actis, which is a leading global investor in solar infrastructure, they've partnered with Meralco, Manila Electric Company, and SPNEC to invest in the Terra Solar project. What do you think about everything that's going on here? I mean, it's going to be a while before we see any meaningful output from this, given that they're only just beginning, right? What's your outlook for this stock, given all the investments that are coming into it?
Well, it's a long-term hold on SPNEC. I think, they pretty much laid the groundwork already for what will be the right now the world's biggest solar farm. More significantly, Maiki, the investment by Actis, probably on a phased basis, represents a fairly large foreign direct investment in the country. So Actis is, they're known for investing in renewable energy platforms throughout the world, and this investment in Terra Solar, well, two things: confidence that execution will happen, and this will itself maybe bring in other, maybe British or other foreign firms taking a second look at the Philippines for renewable energy investment and hopefully other investments as well. But that's significant. It's a big FDI investment. And Actis is, it used to be related to the British government. So that's, again, something going for the project.
Yeah, it's very exciting times for this company. It's very bullish for the company as well, and bullish for the Philippines. So thank you, Manny, for shedding light on that. Manny.
Thank you.
Manny Ocampo, the Managing Director at Investment and Capital Corporation of the Philippines. We're taking a quick breather. Basis Points will be right back. Please stay with us. Welcome back. Converge ICT Solutions of billionaire Dennis Uy delivers its first cash dividend payout since going public in 2020. The fiber solutions provider declares a special cash dividend of 1.31 billion pesos or 18 centavos per share. This is also ahead of a plan to start paying dividends by 2025. The shares of Converge rose more than 4% to 16.94 pesos following this announcement. Converge also set its inaugural dividend policy at 25 to 30% of net income based on its latest audited financial statement. The dividend announcement comes as Converge recorded strong earnings growth and operational cash flow, maintaining its ability to constantly pay dividends to shareholders. In other news, Samsung, the South Korean multinational manufacturing conglomerate and the world's top maker of smartphones, TVs, and memory chips, plans to cut up to 30% of its staff globally. According to sources, Samsung has already instructed its subsidiaries worldwide to reduce sales and marketing staff by about 15% and administrative staff by up to 30%. The plan, which will be implemented by the end of this year, will affect jobs across the Americas, Europe, Asia, and Africa. It's still unclear, however, exactly how many people will be let go and which countries and business units will be most affected. Now, Zara owner Inditex, one of the world's biggest fashion companies, hit record earnings in the first half of the year. The Spanish group's net profit increased by 10% to 2.8 billion euros or $3 billion US. This was on the back of a strong performance in its spring and summer collections. Sales, meanwhile, grew by 7.2%, slower than the 13.5% expansion a year ago. Inditex has invested in logistics and technology to deliver fashion faster, all while keeping prices low amid competition from low-cost shopping platforms like China's Shein. Before we go, just as reading transports us to different worlds for a magical experience, SM's Book Nook takes us on an adventure of learning and building communities. The brainchild of architect Shireen C., Book Nook at the Podium Mall in Ortigas marked the latest in the SM Group's journey to provide a fun space for book lovers of all ages.
I'll be honest, my kids were reading on the floors of National and Fully Booked, and I was very embarrassed because they kept opening books, and I said there has to be another way to give my child a library. And fortunately, book lovers are generally very generous. They're very, very inviting, very accepting. And really, it's not a competition. I mean, we're right next to Fully Booked. National Bookstore donated our first batch of books in 2020. And it has been a really loving collaboration.
Since its launch at SM Aura in 2020, Book Nook has evolved from a simple library to a communal space for storytelling and creativity. At their Podium branch, there's a special corner dedicated to Philippine history to deepen our understanding of the country's past and rich heritage.
One of my dreams is to have the Philippines part of the UNESCO Literary City. And when you go to a city, you experience the culture through their books. By picking up a book, you get a sense of their favorite recipes, their historical figures, their heritage.
With 2 more branches in the pipeline, Book Nook is on a mission to make reading enjoyable for everyone. After all, every library is an invitation to share stories and discover the world.
When I look at the shelf right now, I see lives. I see people's stories. I see the heartache they might have put into getting it published. I see secrets. I see so many different flavors you might get, like from Sinigang, right? The Book Nook is in Podium. It's like a baby to us. Please come, bring a book, and please pick a book to bring back to your home to share with your child or family. Come join us for our workshops. And we have teachers, we have clubs, we have photographers. You never know what you're going to find, so please journey with us. And I would like to invite you to reimagine what a library can be.
And that's it for Basis Points. I'm Maiki Oreta. Stay tuned tomorrow for more news on the financial markets and more. Keep it here on DNC, the Billionario News Channel, always on top.